This time on Rad Rat Video, we're talking about Kareem Campbell. Welcome to Rad Rat Video. Here on this channel, we learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. We're talking stuff like trick histories, learning tricks on the shred school, game reviews of classic skateboarding games, and also this, which is Retro Rippers. This is a series where we figure out what's going on with our old skate pros, favorite skate pros from back in the day. Last time I asked who you wanted to see most, and a lot of people wanted Kareem Campbell. So we're going to talk about him right now. I have talked about Kareem Campbell a few times before on the channel. The first time I did a video you can watch right here, which was about what exactly is a ghetto bird. A lot of people think it's a hard flip late backside 180. It's not. It's more like a nollie big spin hard flip. It's a whole thing. Check that out if you want more details about that. I also made a video where I talked about whether he stole that trick. And it's possible someone else did it long before he ever did. You can watch that video here. I don't think he actually maliciously stole it. I think someone else just happened to do it first and he didn't know about it. But again, you can check that out right there. But today we're actually going to talk about Kareem Campbell, catch up with where he is right now. But first I want to talk about his career up until this point. So Kareem Campbell was born in Harlem, New York, but he moved away when he was about 6 years old to the California area. He lived around Venice Beach for a while. He started skating pretty young, and when he was a teenager, he started to get sponsors like Bridge Bolts. If you remember these were in my worst skateboard gimmicks video you can check out right here. It's just kind of funny, that was one of his first sponsors. But he started entering contests. Back in the day, there was this circuit, there was Castle and NSA. And the way it worked, Castle was like the entry-level competitions. So you work your way up through Castle, and then when you were one of the top 3 guys, you would graduate into the next tier, which was the NSA. And so Kareem Campbell was doing that. He was winning contests in Castle. He made it into the next level, and he was starting to do well there. He was on tour with Rocco. They were doing demos and stuff like that. And Kareem was going to go back and be in the finals, but Rocco said, hey, forget about that stuff. I'm going to turn you pro right now. And that's what happened. He's talked a lot about how he used to work back in the day, where if you got to that top level and you were winning those contests, you were pro regardless of whether you had a deck deal or not. And how nowadays you can just put your name on a deck and you're a pro. But back then you actually had to work your way up through ranks and all that kind of stuff. And he actually thinks it was better that way. So he was on his way to doing that, and then he was turned pro by World Industries. His first real video part was a New World Order in 1993. He did actually have a video before that in the A1 Meets video, but he actually had to film the entire thing in one day. So if you watch it, there's like 2 different spots, and he's just skating and doing lines the whole time. And it's so weird to think that you could get away with doing that kind of stuff back then. Could you imagine, like, the new huge video is going to come out on Saturday and it's Thursday and you have to start filming your part, and you film the whole thing and then they edit it Friday and then it goes out on Saturday? Like, it's just completely ridiculous. You know, videos take at least a year, and he had to film the whole video part in just one day. Pretty ridiculous to think about the way that it used to work back then. But it was his New World Order part that really put him on the map. And you have to think about what things were like back then. So if you watch skate videos from 92 or 93, the biggest trend at the time for some reason was using either classical music or jazz, or like ironically using oldies. I don't know why, that's just what people were doing. And then Kareem Campbell comes out and he's got a rap soundtrack. And not just that, but he actually looks different from everybody else that was skating, not just because he was black. There was Sean Sheffy, Ray Barbie, a few other black skaters, but he had his own style. He wasn't wearing the huge orange or purple pants that everyone was wearing. You know, he wasn't getting involved in all these goofy fads. He actually looked like more of a regular cool guy. And Remo's skating spoke for itself as well. So he was doing a lot of really hard tricks really well. So before that, what people were doing was insanely difficult tricks and just barely landing them and being all sketchy. The whole technical era from 92, he was kind of going beyond that. He was doing the next thing. He was doing really technical stuff. He was doing switch and nollie a lot, and he was landing stuff clean. And the thing is, if you go back and watch some of that footage now, it doesn't hold up all that great, but that's only because people built off of what he did. his style became the new standard and people built off of it and kept it going. So he actually really had a big impact on skateboarding. And even from the beginning of his pro career, Remo was really ambitious. He started Menace skateboards almost immediately after his New World Order part. And there's a whole epically latered series about Menace that you can check out if you want more specific details about it. But the thing about Menace was that it was the first brand in skateboarding to really be more of like a gangsta type of vibe, So back then you had like cartoony, silly stuff. You had punk, like skulls and flames and all that. And then this was the first thing that was more that kind of vibe, like more aggressive in that kind of way. And so it was kind of the first to do that. But Menace, they never had their own pro video. They filmed for one, it just never got done. All they had was a part in the World Industries video 20-shot sequence. There were parts by other brands that World Industries ran, like Blind. So they all had their own sections. 2 years later, there was another video called Trilogy. There's a line by Kareem Campbell, and while he's skating in the line, he checks his pager. He actually pulls it off, looks at it, and clips it back on during a line while he's going. So check that out, you can see. He was asked about that a couple years ago, and he said that what was going on was his girlfriend was pregnant and she was due soon. And he had to check to make sure if it was her or not. So that was a pretty interesting story about Kareem Campbell that blew up online a few years ago. But back to Menace. So Menace actually went all the way until '98. Then they had to change their name to All City Skateboards. There was some copyright issues and stuff at the time. And then they changed it to City Stars in '99. They finally had their own pro video in 2001, but it seems like City Stars kind of faded away within a couple years of that. Kareem Campbell more recently did bring the brand back for a little while, but it doesn't seem like it's going anymore. If you look them up right now, they have a Facebook and an Instagram and a website and all that stuff, but it doesn't seem like they've been touched for a few years. I don't think their Facebook has been updated since 2012, so I don't really know what's going on. I was not able to find their stuff for sale anywhere, so it seems like they're kind of done for the time being. But as you'll see later, Kareem is into a lot of different business ventures all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if it makes another comeback in the future. On top of Menace, Remo also started Action Shoes. And it is Action, not Axion, because there was a pronunciation guide in one of their ads. He started this brand and it really took off throughout the 90s, and it went until about 2000. So what happened was Remo wanted to take City Stars from Dwindle and do it himself independently. And as part of that deal to get away from Dwindle, they made him leave Action Shoes behind. So that was in 2000. They kept it going without him for a little while, but it died almost immediately. Within a couple years, it was gone. Interestingly, another brand bought the name Action in 2009. They were starting to make a team and all that stuff. Seems like that died out too, because last time I checked their website, they had all this Japanese on it, and it's like a weight loss pill or something right now. So that's what's going on with Action. But aside from the brands that he made, Campbell was also in the Tony Hawk series, and he talks about how this was such a big deal for him. So it was cool because he lived right next to the studios at Neversoft, so he would go in all the time and actually help out with different stuff. But he had a pretty big impact on the game from that point, and it had a big impact on him. So he talks about how after the games came out, he became a household name, and he was getting checks from his shoe sales for $100,000. And he was getting paid by Activision directly. Also, he got the biggest check was $170,000 for being in that game. And that's pretty crazy. So I had always assumed that they had paid them up front to be in the game and that was it. But it seems like they were actually paying them for their appearance, in all the different versions and all that kind of stuff. So maybe this was after Pro Skater 2 came out, and there was the PlayStation version, the Xbox version, the Dreamcast version, the Game Boy Color version, the Game Boy Advance version, the N-Gage version, all that kind of stuff. And the money was just pouring in, which is pretty crazy. So he was not only in the games, but he actually made songs for them, kind of. So if you watch his ending video in Pro Skater 2 or 3, he actually made those songs that are playing. They're not in the game soundtrack. You don't hear them while you're playing, but they are in his video sections. But he does actually have a song that he made for Pro Skater 4, or helped with at least, that is actually in the game itself. But by the mid-2000s, he was kind of done being a pro skater from a perspective of actually filming video parts and all that kind of stuff. He has some appearances here and there, but the thing is, a lot of people learned about him for the first time from the Pro Skater games. Like me, I started skating when Pro Skater 2 came out. And it was really weird because I remember thinking that this was the weirdest guy in the world. In Pro Skater 3, you beat the game as him, and the video you unlock is like him signing boards, and he does like 2 tricks at a demo, and then someone else is skating in it. It's like, who is this guy? He's not even a skater. He's just like, what is he doing? And if you look back on his career, simply from a skateboarding, like pro skateboarding perspective, it doesn't seem like he actually did all that much. Depending on how you count it, he only had about 2 real video parts. So he had that first one I talked about where it was all in one day. He has a lot of appearances in montages. He was in Rodney versus Day One, round 1 and round 2 in montages. He was in ads and 411 and all that kind of stuff. But as far as video parts, he only really had 2. And so if you think about it from that perspective, he didn't really have that big of an impact, but he actually played it really, really well. So in an interview, he talked about how much he loves money, which was kind of funny, how everything that he does, if he ever has any free time, he's trying to get more money. And from that kind of perspective, he actually did really, really well as a pro skater, because right from the start, he was making his own brands, he was making deals, he was doing all kinds of stuff to advance his career outside of skateboarding and related to skateboarding, and not just focusing on being a pro skater, because a lot of those guys end up leaving the industry with no money when they're done. So from a businessman perspective, Kareem was a very successful pro skater. So what is Remo up to right now? It's actually really hard to say. If you see an interview with him, he loves to give really, really short answers with not a lot of details. So it's tough to really nail down exactly what he's talking about. But it seems like he's living in Texas right now with his kids, but he travels a lot all over the place in his many business adventures that he does. 2 of the ones he's talked about specifically are telecommunications and real estate. So as far as the telecommunications, that can mean anything. That can mean he is a telemarketer. It can mean that he owns a cell phone network. It's just too hard to say. He has talked about doing production on TV and graphic design. I don't know any more details than that. He also promotes stuff on his Instagram all the time. He has posted about the XXX movie that came out recently. He did a lot of promotion for that for some reason. So that's telecommunications. The second one was his real estate, and he actually has a real estate license, meaning that he's involved in the actual buying and selling. He doesn't just own, investment properties. He's a real estate agent, which is kind of hard to imagine because his Instagram is full of pictures like this of him with a giant bag of pot and stuff like that. And it's kind of hard to picture him in a suit negotiating a major business deal, selling a big building or whatever. But again, I don't know exactly what that means, but that's what he's up to. One of the other things he promotes a lot is 4Down, which is this nonprofit skate park type of thing in Dallas, Texas. And it seems like the idea is that it's a safe place for kids to go instead of being out on the streets, and they can skate, and there are like free classes they can take and more community outreach type of stuff. So he's involved in that in some way. I don't know exactly. Their site lists him as a supporter. He has been to their park a bunch of times. So I'm not sure exactly his role there, but he is involved in that in some way. So that's pretty cool. He's talked about skateboarding being a way out for people who are in rough environment and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty cool that he's involved in that. He has also said that he still skates about 4 times a week, and he might drop a video part, which is pretty cool. So this was a couple years ago. We still haven't seen it, so I don't know if that'll ever materialize. But he says that skateboarding is still a really big part of his life, and it's his relief from everything else. So he's got all these business ventures he's working on all the time, but he always has to find time to skate, and that helps him, clear his mind and all that. And I can definitely relate. So I have a lot of stuff going on with my work too. Own a web design company. I do all kinds of stuff. But I always try to find time to skate or talk about skateboarding because of my injury. I can't skate all that much. But it's just a huge thing to keep in your life. And it's cool to see that he's still really active in it, even though he's not really sharing it that much. He says he's still at the top of his game, so it would be really cool to see him just drop a part out of nowhere. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. So if you have anybody you want to see me talk about next time, put it in the comments below. One thing to keep in mind, look if someone else said it already and upvote it. That way they'll float to the top. That's how I found this one. Everyone wanted to see Kareem Campbell. Also, if you have any tips about the person, let me know that as well. Sometimes it's kind of tough to find reliable information about what they're up to right now. So put all of that below in the comments. And until next time, here's some more videos you might want to check out. Also, don't forget to tap my logo on screen to subscribe, and that way you can stay up to date and you can learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. Thanks for watching.